Hi everyone, I am C.A. Punshi, and today we are going to discuss on one of the really very important topic, which is about what will change going forward, especially in respect to the taxes and the changes which government have come up with. Before we even start our today's session, I just want to check if you all are able to hear me or not. So if you are able to hear me, just say hi on the chat box. Great. So it seems like everyone is able to hear me. So with this, we'll just start our today's session, which is on influencer tax, what will change going forward. And we are going to focus on one of the important section which was introduced, which is our section 194R. So we are going to talk about this because this is something which is relevant. And here we have to look into the implication of the TDS, which is going to have, which is obviously from 1st July 2022. It's already implemented. We just have to see how this is going to impact the businesses, how this is going to impact the person who is even receiving the perquisite. So if I just brief, right, like why they have even introduced this 194R, what was the reason behind it? So if I give you one simple example, right, let's assume that, in the case of hospitals and all, and there are doctors and all. So whenever it comes to the companies who are maybe bringing up or coming up with the new drug, which is a kind of new medicines, whenever they are launching this, and even if they want to promote their medicines and all, many times they used to give this to the hospitals or doctors so that accordingly their sales can be increased. And when it comes to their margin on that particular medicine, is really very high. It's like around 80%, 90%. But now if we just think this company, they used to give this medicines to the hospitals or doctors free of cost. At the same time, not only this, many times they also try to benefit or give the benefit because of some, maybe they will just ask them, okay, you can just go to abroad, or let's just go to Canada or maybe any other place, right? So they used to even book the tickets for them so that they can just go and travel. And what was the main motive of giving that is just to increase their sales, so that the business, if I am into a pharma company, I want to increase my sale, I want to launch my new product, I want that the doctor should prescribe my product. So, in all such cases, what was happening, when we think from the business perspective, they always have the kind of expenses. So, they always treat this as a business promotion expenses. But when it comes to the other party, which is from the angle of doctor or maybe from the angle of hospital, they never used to show this as their income. So if let's say this person, which is like a businessman, he's a pharma company, when this pharma company have given something to this doctor, let's say they have booked some travel ticket and they're like, okay, you can just go abroad and just go and roam around. So they will say, okay, I'm going to, maybe I'm going outside India, but anyhow, it's just a kind of perquisite, which is kind of, they can't even measure it, and they never show that as an income. But in general, if you ask me, today under the income tax, we have one section called Section 28, which talks about the chargeability of the business and profession. And if we look into that section, this income was always taxable. It's not like that was not taxable. They have to always pay the taxes on the perquisite which is received by them. It's okay that this is not in the form of money, even if it's in the form of kind or partially in kind and partially in cash. Still, in that case, they have to show this as their income and accordingly pay the taxes. But looking into the practicality, this was never happening. So, this doctors or hospital, they were never paying the taxes, the income tax on such transaction. Now, to overcome this problem, what government says, like, hey, I want to do one thing. See, one of the way how the government would even know about this transaction is introducing this TDS section. So that the company, whenever they're providing this thing, the perquisite to these businesses or to doctors and hospital, when they deduct this TDS, then automatically this transaction will come in their 26 AS, as well as obviously in that annual information statement, which is available on the income tax portal. As soon as these transactions come over there, automatically the government would know that this person, whether he's paying income tax on this or not. If they are not paying, then obviously they will issue the notice that why there is a difference between two, and they have to then tell them. It could be exempted too, right? That income can be exempted, but that is the other problem, right? That government will deal with it, because now at least they know the transaction. But till today, they don't even know about this transaction. So to bring this transaction to the purview of this transparency, they have come up with this section which is known as 194R, so that whenever there is a individual or businessman who is providing some perquisite for the business and the profession to other person, in such case this 194 is applicable. The 194R is actually applicable. Now the question is, okay, this started with this particular concept, like that there are a lot of pharma company who used to give to the doctors and all. Is it now even applicable for other kinds of transaction? A very simple example, we would know that we being a CA also, right? If I am a CA over here, we do sometimes get some gift from the businesses. I'm doing their audit and like, okay, you're doing my audit and all. Though like most of the time we don't, like, we obviously receive our professional fees, but sometimes they have just gifted us. Let's say I was doing some audit for some company and they are into a clothing business. They gifted me some clothes and all, like, okay, you just take it. And this is just a kind of gift. They will put this as expenses under business and profession. But now question comes in whether that gift which I have received from them, in such case, will this be treated as an perquisite, and whether this TDS implication will be there or not, or will this transaction be even covered under 194R or not? So these are some of the questions which we are going to cover in the today's session. So now let's talk about the main section, which is 194R. When exactly is this even applicable? What is the rate of tax? What about the income part? And what is this TDS part? So if we think in a general, right, most of the time, if there is some expense for the one person, obviously this is income for the other person. So if I am saying one company is giving a perquisite to the other person, for the other person, this becomes an income. And when we are talking this in relation to the business and profession, automatically this income is taxable under the business income from business and profession, which is under section number 28, subsection 4. Right? So if I was running a business, I received some perquisite, in such case, this is my income and I have to pay taxes under section 28. Now, you would be also wondering, what if I'm an employee? Normal case. If I'm an employee, my company, they have given me some perquisite. Now, perquisite can be in different forms. It could be in a form of ESOPs. They have given me some ESOPs. They can also be other perquisite. Let's say I am into sales, right? And I overachieved my sales. I like, okay, they have given me, okay, you have to do a sale of, let's say, 10 lakh per month. Rather than 10 lakh, I have done, let's say, 20 lakh per month. I have overachieved. In such case, they have given me a ticket. Okay, you go and just go to Bangkok. You go and travel around. So this was done by my company to help me, or just to, obviously one of the purposes is just to retain employee and also celebrate my achievement, right? So in such case, whether 194 will be even applicable or not, right? So if we now just talk about, here there is an employer and there is an employee, and when we talk about this perquisite, whatever was given, right, it's already taxable. Right? So there is already a taxability, which is section number 17. There we anyhow have to pay the taxes on that. And when it comes to TDS is already deducted on such income, which is under 192. So when we talk about whether 194R is applicable for such transaction, the answer is no. The 194R is not applicable for such cases. The 194 is applicable, the 194R, especially this section, is applicable when there is a business transaction. A simple case could be, let's say I am giving some perquisite, I am giving some maybe kind of a gift to my agent so that he can go ahead and increase my sales. So if I am doing that, then this is a kind of a perquisite where 194R is applicable. But now the another question. We understood a section is obviously 194R. When it comes to the nature of transaction which is covered under 194R, is the benefit of or perquisite which is provided in cash or in kind, right? So that is like a kind of nature of income. When we talk about like a payer, right, who is actually giving this services, so they say that any person other than the individual and HUF, or maybe with the individual and HUF, if their turnover is above 1 crore, or if it's a professional receipts, then it is above 50 lakhs, right? So this is like a kind of pair, which means if I am into a business, I am a normal business person, and if I'm a business person and my turnover is exceeding 1 crore, in such case, I am liable to deduct the TDS under section number 194R, which is again under 194R, I am liable to deduct the TDS if I am providing some perquisites, right? Now, the other thing is, what if I am a professional? Like, for example, I am a CA. Now, when I'm providing these services, again, here the limit is 50 lakh. So, if my income is more than 50 lakh, in such case, if I am providing some perquisite, in such case, again, I am liable to deduct the TDS under section number 194R. Question is, if let's assume my turnover is less than 50 lakh, I am a CA, my income is less than 50 lakhs. Though I am providing some perquisite, let's say there was one, maybe there was some person, and I'm like, okay, I will just book some ticket for you, and this is just a kind of gift, or maybe I have given some Diwali gift to them. This is for my business purpose only. I want to promote my business, so I have given some Diwali gifts too. Now, question is whether that gift which I have given, and assume that is my agent, right? He's also obviously into his business. Question comes in, whether that person is liable to pay the income tax on such transaction. If we just say, even if my receipt is less than 50 lakhs, I am not liable to deduct the TDS under 194R. But when it comes to that person, the agent who is receiving such perquisite from me, he is actually liable to pay the taxes on such income. It's just like this transaction cannot be tracked, but they have to pay the taxes because as per section 28, that is their income and they are liable to pay taxes on such transaction, right? Now the other question is like, because obviously when it comes to the TDS section, most of the time we would have seen that there is a threshold limit to it. So for this section also, when it comes to section number 194R, there is a threshold limit, and the threshold limit over here is 20,000. So if this transaction is up to 20,000, then I'm not liable to deduct any TDS. But if it exceeds this limit of 20,000, then I am liable to deduct the TDS, which is obviously on the entire amount, right? What is the TDS rate? The TDS rate over here is 10%. And who is the pay? Which means to whom I am providing the perquisites, so that pay should be resident. Because in case that the person is non-resident, the question is, okay, what if he's non-resident? Whether that income will not be of that person? The answer is no, it's not like that, because this is just a TDS section. We have to deduct TDS for them too, but then the section is 195. It will not covered under 194R, but it will be covered under 195. So if we just talk about 194R, the TDS will be deducted at the rate of 10% if this person is a resident person to whom I am providing the perquisites. So this is more about section like 194R, where we are just talking about like what is the section name, what is the nature of services, who is the payer, what is the limit, what is the rate, and what is the pay. This is more of 124R. But now I know that there would be a lot of questions which is now coming in your mind. And obviously the question could be, what if, how would even value that? Let's say I had my agent, and he had like done my sales of, let's say, 1 crore per month. And in such case, what happened? I thought, okay, let me just give him a gift, which is a mobile phone. I gifted him a mobile phone. How would I value that? Like now when I'm deducting this TDS at the rate of 10%, on what value I'm going to even deduct this TDS? This is one question which is going to come in our mind. Second question is like, okay, who is going to even deduct? It's like, because I am giving a mobile phone, is it like I have to pay that amount, the TDS amount in cash now? That could be another problem. Like how I'm going to do that? What would be the value on which TDS should be deducted? Let's say I'm saying, okay, 10% has to be deducted, but on what value? That could be other thing, which will obviously we have to decide how this is going to be like looked into. Then whenever we are saying 20,000, is it per instance? Or this is like an aggregate. And since we are saying this particular section, the 194R, it is applicable from 1st July 2022, then what about the transaction? Let's say I have done a transaction with one of my agent, and that time I have done of, let's say, 15,000, right, between April, May, June, and now I have done for, let's say, 10,000. whether this TDS will be deducted or not, whether the limit which we are saying of 20,000, is it applicable for all transaction from your 1st June, or maybe I would say 1st July, or it is applicable from 1st April, which is starting of the financial year, right? So these are some of the questions which will be obviously coming in our mind, and we are going to answer all these questions, like how this all things will happen, right? Now let's first think about or talk about the nature of income, because when we are talking about 194R, one thing is nature of income, and when we talk about nature of income, what exactly they are saying? Any benefit or perquisite which is provided to a resident, right? When we are talking about section 194R, they're saying any benefit or the perquisite which is provided to a resident. So by itself, we can understand they're talking about the benefit and perquisite, and it enlarges the scope of the provision of range of transaction. There are a lot of transaction which is covered over here. Now, let me give you one simple example. Many times you would have thought about reimbursements. Question is whether the reimbursement will also come under this. It's also kind of a benefit which I have given, right? Let's say what happened, like I have booked one hotel stay for one of my agent, and like, okay, you have to go there and I will book the hotel stay and everything. And he said, okay, this person himself has booked the ticket and later he has reimbursed that amount from me. Whether that will become under the perquisite under 194R or not. That's one of the thing. What if the question is like it's a kind of a benefit, but I have just given, let's say, 1 lakh rupees as a cash. Is that a perquisite? What if I have given some extra discount? I was billing to my agent, and I like, okay, in general I charge him 1 lakh, but I have given 20,000 as a cash discount. Whether the 20,000 as a cash discount is also a perquisite? Assume I have given some rebate and all, whether that rebate is also a perquisite or not. What if I have gifted one car to my agent, and along with that car I have also given some maybe accessories free of cost? Let's say I'm into a car business. I have given that car to that person, and let's say he is paid for that car. He's actually paying me for that car. It's not a kind of a gift, but I said, okay, since you're an employee, I will also give you accessories of that car. Will that be covered under perquisite? Right? So these are some questions which is there. Now let's talk about like what all is even covered under the word this perquisite, the benefit which we are even talking about. So here, one thing, obviously we are providing to the resident, and this is arising from the business or exercise of a profession by the said resident, right? We are providing to a resident, and that is used for their business and profession ka purpose. I am giving this the particular thing only because this is related to my business, right? Or even because that business, that person was doing my business or helping me in that, that's the reason I have given such perquisite. One simple example. I had my agent, and he's like, and I'm a car dealer. He said, okay, I want to purchase a car for my family, right? Now question is, he came to me and I said, okay, the car cost is 8 lakh rupees. If this car cost is 8 lakh rupees, I like, okay, you have to give me 8 lakh rupees and I will give you a car. The question over here, whether this will come under this, the answer would be no. Why? Because in such case, this person is an end consumer. He has purchased this car for his own personal use. This was nowhere relevant for my business, right? So here this 194R will not be even applicable because that person is going to consume it for his own purpose, and I have not gifted him. It's just a kind of, he has paid the money for this. But now question is, what if I gave some extra discount to that person? I like, okay, for you it's 10,000 ka discount. Will this transaction be again come under this, the 10,000 discount which I have given to him, will it be come under 194R? So again, here the government, they have issued a guideline. They said, no, this 10,000 will not come under this because this was for their personal purpose and you just have given some extra discount. So this is not going to come under 194 because that was related to a transaction which happened between you and that particular person, and this is not related to any business. Right? So this is about the benefit. Now let me ask you one question. So let's assume there was a Mr. X who was running a trading business in a garment industry, He provides various incentives to his agents to boost the sales targets and all. And now during FY 22-23, he has provided some free tickets for an event to Mr. A, who is a resident agent with the highest turnover. Question is, does this benefit and perquisite will come under the purview of section 194R? So you can just reply on the chat box. So done. Let's say I'm Mr. X and I'm running my trading business. I'm into a garment industry, and I have one. Obviously, there was Mr. A who was my agent, and since he was doing really very good sale for me, what I have done, I look, okay, I will just book some free tickets for an event. The tickets which I have booked for this person, will this be covered under 194R? And whether this Mr. A, he is liable to pay income tax, and I as a person is liable to deduct the TDS on such transaction. So you can just reply on the chat box whether this transaction will be covered or not. So here the answer is yes, this transaction will be covered, right? So yeah, because this is a kind of a benefit and the perquisite, which is a free ticket which I have provided to this Mr. A, who is my agent, and this is on the account of business or exercise of our profession which is carried by such resident. So in such transaction, this is actually covered under 194R. So I as a business person would be liable to deduct the TDS at the rate of 10%. Let me ask you another second question. Let's say there is a company called XYZ and is a trader in the automobile industry that manufactures and sells the motor vehicle. And they have recently launched the electric vehicle. What they have started doing, they have started providing some free test drive to its prospective customer. Now question is whether this is considered as a benefit or a perquisite which will be covered under 194R. So the answer over here is that this transaction, right, this will never be considered as a benefit or perquisite because this is not on account of the business or exercise or profession. Because if we look into that customer, the prospective customer, right, they are not running any business or profession. They are going to buy it for their personal use, right? When they are going to buy it for their personal use, in such case, this is not in respect or account of the business or the exercise of profession. So here I am not liable to deduct the TDS under section 194R, right? Because they are the end user. So whenever it is to an end user, in such case, there is no question of TDS. Now the another part is when we talk about 194R, we also have to check for the nature of relationship. So here the relationship, as I told you, right? So this should be other than the employer and employee relationship, because whenever we talk about the employer-employee relationship, it's anyhow covered under section 17 where it is taxed, and when it comes to TDS, the TDS in such case is deducted under section number 192. So since TDS is deducted under section number 192, so we are not able to deduct the TDS under number 194R. So this transaction here, when it comes to relationship, it's just for a business and a profession, right? Now let's understand about this transaction. There is company ABC, which is a pharma company. It has administered a new drug, and to obtain the recognition, it distributes the free sample to Dr. S, who is a medical practitioner. Now question comes in whether this benefit or the perquisite, it will come under 194R or not. First case, Dr. S, he is an employee at XYZ Private Limited. And the second case is when Dr. S is a consultant at XYZ Private Limited. Now you have to remember one thing. Company is ABC, which is a pharma company. ABC is providing the services to Dr. S. And this Dr. S, one case Dr. S is an employee of the hospital, right? And second case this Dr. S is a consultant of this hospital. So Dr. S is an employer or consultant of the hospital. Again, remember ABC, he is not an employee of ABC, right? Now, in such case, let me ask you first fall apart. In the first scenario, where S is an employee at this XYZ Private Limited, which is again a hospital, in such case, whether 194R is applicable or not. That's the first question. And if it is applicable, against whose PAN number we are going to deduct the TDS? So now when we're talking about the first transaction, right, so what will happen here when we talk about again hospital, which is XYZ, company, which is ABC, obviously they are other than employer-employee relationship, right? There is no employer-employee relationship between this ABC and XYZ. Employer-employee relationship was between the doctor and the XYZ private limit, right? For between them, there's an employer-employee relationship, but when it comes to perquisite is provided by ABC and the doctor, right? Here, because this is there, which is obviously there is no employer-employee relationship, then obviously 194R will be applicable. Now, question is when it's an obviously because here 194R is applicable, so the TDS will be deducted in the name of hospital again because doctor is an employee of that hospital, right? So the TDS will be deducted against the PAN of the hospital. Now, question is if we just look in between XYZ and Dr. S, right? Whether the TDS will be deducted or not. So the answer over here will be obviously here there is an employer and employee relationship, and since there is an employer and employer relationship, then 192 will be applicable and not 194R. Now, if you think about the other transaction where this person was a consultant, right? Where this person is a consultant, in such case, what will happen? Automatically, if I am providing the services, which means ABC is providing the services to the doctor directly, then we can always deduct the TDS under the name of the doctor itself. So we can directly deduct the TDS there itself. And because there is again no employer-employee relationship between the ABC and the doctor, so we can directly deduct the TDS under that name. That is one way. Or the other way could be we can deduct the TDS under the name of hospital, and then that hospital may deduct the TDS in the name of the doctor. So this is how we can always look into such transaction. So now the other question is, we just talked about the nature, right? Like how the transaction will look like. Now when we talk about this benefit and the perquisite, who is a provider and who is a receiver? Because that is again very much relevant. So we know that provider here can be resident as well as non-resident, right? But when it comes to the receiver should always be resident. Because in case the receiver is a non-resident, then the TDS will be deducted under section number 195 and not under 194R, right? So here, that is what we have explained. If a provider is a resident or a non-resident, right? Doesn't matter. But now, obviously, the other important part over here is whether that particular person is he an end user or not, or he is running his business and profession. Because if he is an end user who came to me, bought something, obviously, I'm not going to deduct any TDS for that particular person. So here what we are saying, if there is a provider who is a resident or a non-resident, and it is provided to a resident who is having his business or a profession, then this TDS will be deducted under section number 194. But if that particular person, the recipient, is an end consumer, in such case, this TDS will not be deducted. And obviously, if he is a non-resident, then again, this TDS will not be deducted. But again, one important part which we should understand here is, because if you are saying this, whenever we are providing this benefits, right? And obviously, if this is something, whenever we are providing this benefits and all, we also have to check the limit, which is of 20,000. So we discussed a lot of things about 194R. So let's also talk about chargeability, which we have already understood. So obviously the rate of tax, the rate of TDS over here is 10%. And in case PAN is not provided, then the TDS rate is 20%. We have the exemption limit also, which is 20,000 per financial year. Obviously, this is per person also. We cannot say, like, let's say I am providing this to 2 agents. Whether this 20,000 is on aggregate of 2 agents or is per agent. The answer is obviously per agent, right? Because when we deduct the TDS per PAN. So whenever we look into this 20,000 limit also, we have to always look into as a per pen thing, right? But this is aggregate kind of thing. It's like, for example, first time I have done a transaction of 15,000, no TDS. Then again I have done another transaction of 15,000, then yes, TDS will be deducted because it has exceeded the threshold limit of 20,000. When it comes to the nature of benefit, then it can be wholly in kind or partly or maybe partly in kind and partly in cash. That's a kind of nature of benefit. When we talk about the effective date, from when exactly it is applicable, so this is applicable from 1st July 2022. And when we talk about exemption limit, when I'm saying exemption limit, this 20,000 ka limit, we always have to even look into the transaction which happened between that person from 1st April 2022. Right? And when it comes to the benefits, right, of the value, so value of benefit will have to be considered basis the FMV. So here another question for all of you, and maybe you can try answering this, and then we'll be discussing on this. So we had Mr. P, who is a social media influencer who promotes various brands to its followers. Company, there's a DEF, who is a luxurious handbag brand who wishes to market its product through influencer marketing. And company, what they are doing, they are sending this brand handbags to Mr. B so that he can promote the brand. So we need to understand the implication under 194R. Now you would have seen, right? You have seen a lot of cases. Like for example, there is a influencer, let's say Shah Rukh Khan. I want to promote my I am dealing with handbags and all, and let's say I want, or maybe this Priyanka Chopra. I want, okay, this handbag should be promoted. I have given these handbags to Priyanka Chopra. One case could be this person has just promoted it, Priyanka Chopra has just promoted it and given me that handbags back to me. Then obviously this is no perquisite at all. There is no question of even taxability or deducting TDS under 194R. But think about the second case, right? This influencer, let's say Priyanka Chopra in our case, Priyanka Chopra has taken that bags, or I have gifted that bag to her. Like, okay, you can just promote it and it's of you. Like, you can just take this with you. Question is whether this will be considered as a perquisite. That's the question. And whether the TDS needs to be deducted under section number 194R. So here, if we just look into this transaction, we understand the nature of the benefit which is provided by this company is wholly in kind, which is obviously the supply of handbooks. So obviously there will be a implication over here. If she gives us that back to us, then obviously no TDS, no taxes at all. But if she is not going to give us that back to us, we have just gifted her. In such case, there is an implication and the TDS needs to be deducted under 194R at the rate of 10%. Right? So this was about the implication. Now let's talk about the another example. There is a company M&O who is into a smartphone manufacturing company, and it has lot of agents, and it's a company policy to provide the various benefits perquisites to its agent on achieving a predetermined sales. Now we have to determine the value of the benefit and the perquisite which is provided by the company for achievements of its target, so that especially to their top sale agents received, in first case they have received the painting, second case they have received the car, and third case where they have received the smartphone which was manufactured by the company himself. So now we have to determine the value, because the one another question is, right, we have to deduct TDS at the rate of 10%. We understood we'll deduct that, but the only question comes in, what about the value? On which value we have to even deduct this TDS at the rate of 10%? So here we have three examples. So here again the company, they have given gift kind of thing, just to obviously because they have overachieved the targets, they have achieved the whatever we have asked for. First case we have gifted painting, second case may we have gifted the car which was purchased by the company, and third case may we have given them the smartphone which was manufactured by the company itself. So these are the three cases. Now question comes in, what would be the valuation in all of these three cases? One, when painting was gifted. Second, where I purchased the car from obviously third party and then I have given it to the agents. And the third is I have given them the smartphone which was manufactured by the company itself. So the here answer is when it comes to the painting, we have to look into the fair market value. What is the fair market value of the painting? We can always look into the evaluation report. When it comes to car, obviously I would have the purchase price, right? Because I purchased that, so I would have the purchase price. So in such case, whatever is my purchase price will always be considered as the value of the perquisite, but we again don't have to include the GST. So if there is a GST also charged on top of that, then that should not be included while we are deducting the TDS. When it comes to the smartphones, in such case, it's a latest arm length sales price, or we may always say that what is the price I'm going to give it to a final customer also. So that is whatever I'm going to charge from a customer. If I would have sold this particular thing to a customer, that will be treated as the value over here, right? So this is in terms of the valuation, that what would be the value. Now, because we were also talking about, so this is about the value, right? At what value the TDS needs to be deducted. But whether you have wondered one important part over here, when we were talking about this value, let's assume that I have got the value of car. Let's say car value is 8 lakh rupees, right? Now the thing is, when it comes to TDS, the TDS, whether it needs to be deducted on top of 8 lakh, or how exactly it will be deducted. Now, one important factor here which we need to understand is who is going to bond the TDS amount. If it's going to be like that TDS amount, that particular agent, they are going to give me that money back. For example, on top of 8 lakh, right? Let's say the TDS over here is 10%, right? So if the TDS over here is 10%, which means assume 80,000 is my amount over here, the TDS amount. If they are going to give me 80,000 back, then to it's right. On 8 lakh, I'm going to deduct the TDS because the other amount they're going to give me back. But assume that person is not going to bond any money, right? In such case, I have to cross up this amount. Then whatever the TDS is deducted, like whatever the value which is coming up, then what I have to do, I assume that this 8 lakh is inclusive of TDS, right? If this 8 lakh is inclusive of TDS, which means I have to say, okay, 8 lakh, this is nothing, but this is 90, and now you tell me what is 100 over there. So I have to gross up this value, and then accordingly that amount, the TDS amount, the TDS benefit also which I am going to give, because ultimately that is also money I am going to, the benefit which I am going to give it to the agent. So I have to compute that amount and accordingly pay the TDS on such transaction, right? So which means like in case I am also giving extra benefit of TDS to this particular agent, in such case that also has to be included while we are considering the or charging the TDS. Now there is another question, because there is also a thing of this 20,000 ka limit, because we keep on saying that there is a limit of 20,000 which is applicable per financial year. How exactly that has to be computed? So assume there was some benefit which was given up to 1st April 2022. There was some benefit which was given from 1st July, right? From 1st July 2022, and obviously there is a total value of FY 22-23, right? So assume that till like from especially from 1st April till I would say 30th of June, we have given some benefit of 15,000. The benefit which we have given after that is, let's say from 1st July, we have given 18,000. So total, which is like a total benefit which we have given, is 33,000. Question is, at what price the TDS, or on what amount the TDS has to be deducted? So in such case, if we just look into it, we said this 20,000 limit has to be started from 1st April. So which means here when we are starting from 1st April, so obviously whatever was done on the transaction, whatever was done till 30th June, I'm not going to deduct TDS. A simple case, let's say there was a transaction which happened of 50,000 till 30th June. Will I be deducting any TDS? No, I'm not going to do that. But if there is some transaction which was done from 1st July, and if transaction was done from 1st July, then I have to even look into the previous transaction and then accordingly deduct the TDS. So in this case, till 30th June, there was a transaction happened for 15,000, and now from 1st July, the transaction happened for 18,000. So I am going to deduct the TDS on 13,000 as it crossed 20,000 ka limit. Second example mein, the total was 2 lakh rupees, and now since it has crossed that limit, so 15,000 we have to again deduct the TDS. Second, like third example, there was a 65,000 ka transaction happened. Now there was no such transaction. I'm not going to deduct any TDS at all because this was the benefit which was provided before the section was even implicated or even applied, right? So here, one simple thing. Let's say there was a transaction happened for 21,000 till 30th June. Now, if the transaction, even for a single rupees, any transaction happens after or from 1st of July, in such case, this TDS has to be deducted from that 1 rupees also. So this is about like looking into the 20,000 ka limit, how exactly we have to even look into the 20,000 ka limit. So if we just talk about what are the key takeaways, so implication of 194R, if it is other than an employer and employee relationship, it should be for the furtherance of business or a profession of a recipient, and obviously for the other party, because we are going to deduct the TDS for the other party, they have to pay the taxes under business and profession. And recipient is not an end consumer, because if that person is an end consumer, in such case there is no question of TDS because that's not their business in the professional income at all, right? So then we don't have to deduct the TDS under 194R. So here, if it's an employer-employee relationship, again 194R is not applicable, because in such case we are going to deduct the TDS under 192. But obviously there could be some exempted perquisites also that we always have to look into it as per 192. So this was just a kind of a brief about, or the key takeaways we should understand when it comes to the implication of section number 194R. Now, there are some special cases. When I'm saying special cases, because we were just talking about the reimbursement kind of thing. We were talking about what about there's a cash discount and all. Whether the TDS has to be deducted on such transaction also. Simple example. When I have sold something to the agent, I said, okay, this is for 1 lakh rupees. If I've sold something to an agent, it's my sale. 1 lakh ka sale. For that agent, it's a purchase. 1 lakh ki purchase. Now I'm saying, okay, I'm going to give you a discount of 10,000. It's one simple thing. If I'm giving a discount of 10,000 to this agent, in such case, will I issue a credit note? The answer is yes. Right? Even when we think from the GST angle, anyhow, it's a different thing, because they again depend on whether it's a trade discount or a cash discount, when exactly it was given. Accordingly, we see the GST implication. But now if we just think about, if I sold something for 1 lakh and then I have given 10,000 at discount, I will raise a credit note, which means when it comes to my income, how much income I am going to show? I will always show 1 lakh minus 10,000, which is 90,000 is my income. That is what I am going to do. If you think from the expense angle also for that other party, what that person is going to say, he is saying, hey, my total purchase was 1 lakh, but I also have, like, obviously I got some discount, so minus 10,000, which means 90,000 is my purchases, right? So ultimately I am reducing my income over here. I am not booking this as my expenses. I am reducing my income. So when I'm reducing my income and I'm not like booking it as my expenses, so there is no question of deducting the TDS under 194R, because this is again not an income for that particular person. He is also going to just reduce his expenses there, right? So the benefit that person is going to get is going to reduce his expenses, and this should not be treated as their income. So that is what they have even explained. So what they are saying, if there is a sales discount, the cash discounts, any rebates which was allowed, so in these cases, again, this should not be considered under 194R. So this will not be coming under the perquisite of this. Now, the main part is about reimbursement. We also talk about like a reimbursement and what are the implications of 194R when it comes to the reimbursement. So now, yeah, we can just think about in a very simple thing, right? Even if we just forgot about the circular which was issued, if we just think about a CA, let's say I'm a CA over here. What I did, I like, okay, there is one business person and I am doing their audit, right? When I am doing their audit, what happened, like, since I will be asking for some professional fees and all, I asked for some professional fees, and now at the same time, what happened, like, with the professional fees, I like, okay, I also have to submit some forms and all, and let's say I have to deposit some income tax, right? So for that business, I had to deposit some income tax, and that business person say, okay, you can take that income tax money back from me. I'm like, okay. So let's assume my professional fees was 1 lakh rupees and there was an income tax of, let's say, 50,000 rupees. So I asked them, okay, give me 1 lakh 50,000. 50,000 is the name of income tax and 1 lakh is actual fees. Question comes in whether that 50,000 is a benefit which was given by that company, that by that businessman to me. The answer is no. That 50,000 is not the benefit which was given by that business. It's just a kind of a reimbursement. This was actually their expenses and this is not a benefit which was given to me. So in this case, this 194R will not be applicable, which means they are not required to deduct any TDS on such transaction. Right? Let's talk about any second example. Same company, I am a CEO over here. What they did, I like, okay, I will give you some, I just want you to go and just enjoy. They booked some resort, right? They booked some resort. So they're like, okay, you do one thing, you book yourself, you book the resort you like. I will reimburse the money back to you. As a company, whatever the expenses you had, I am going to reimburse. Now, in this case, that was a business, that was a company. I'm also a professional over here. What I have done, I have booked a resort. I enjoyed a trip. When I enjoyed a trip, I like, okay, let's say there was a total expense of 1 lakh rupees. 1 lakh, I have billed them. All right, now this is my expenses. Now, question is whether this reimbursement, which I'm going to get from this company, will this be considered as a perquisite or not? So now, when it comes to this transaction, here the bills of the resort was in my name, right? All the bills which was done was in my name. I got that money back from that company. So here the 194R will be applied. So here the TDS under 194R has to be done. So now let's talk about this. So I think same example, there was a Mr. T who is an auditor of a company DEF. He is having all the branches all over India, and as per the assurance engagement, Mr. T, he travels to different cities to audit the branches. Mr. T incurs certain lodging and boarding expenditure that was later reimbursed by company DEF. What are the implications of 194R? So here there can be different cases, right? We also have to understand where exactly the billing happened. Whether the billing happened in the name of company or the billing happened in the name of auditor. So that is also one important thing. So here what we are saying, the name on invoice, whether it is for Mr. T, let's assume yes, expenditure was done by Mr. T, reimbursement was done by company. So in such case, this 194R will be applied. Let's assume the second case, in the name, when we talk about, there was a name on the invoices of the company, expenditure was done by the company. Obviously, if directly the company has paid, then there is no question of reimbursement at all. So in such case, again, when we just look into the third transaction, which is the name on the invoices of the company, expenditure was done by Mr. T, reimbursement was done. So here this 194R will not be applicable because the expenditure is in the name of the company and not Mr. T. So this is all about section 194R, which is really very important because see, till now what we used to happen, we used to like, okay, there's a TDS which needs to be deducted, there's an income under the business and profession. We have to think from the valuation perspective, we have to think from the grossing up perspective, like how exactly the amount needs to be grossed up while we are even deducting the TDS, whether the TDS amount itself will be reimbursed by us or will be reimbursed by the other party, which is a company. So all of this needs to be looked into very carefully. And obviously, if we are an influencer, right, we obviously, when we are an influencer, we also have some business and professional income. So if any company is giving any income or a perquisite to this influencer, in such case also they have to deduct the TDS under 194R. Obviously, provided that limit of 20,000, we can always check in, and we also have to look into the turnover limits. So this was all about our section 194R, and we actually discussed in detail. And hopefully you understood about this topic. Still, in case you have any questions, any query, you can always reach out to us. You can even put your queries on the chat box. We're happy to answer that. And you can always mail us at gstsupport@cleartax.in. That is our mail ID. So you can always put your queries over there. With this, I would like to thanks everyone. Thanks for joining. And you can keep on posting of regarding your any queries. We're happy to answer over there. Thank you. Thank you very much.